Welcome to the 98% podcast where we hear real stories from real people. And I'm here with Lane. So, Lane, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am Lane, obviously. I was on one previous episode, the special episode about the Highland Games. So that tells you right off the bat that I do Highland Games, and then I did some throwing, and um, I work at a PRTF, which is a psychiatric residential treatment facility for kids ages from 6 to 17. Um, Grew up in smaller town Missouri, now in Kansas City proper, and yeah, I mean that's the basic skimming the surface type thing up here
Yeah.
living in the hood.
Sweet. Okay. So, how do you know me?
So I know you through Chip Sloan. Even though we talked last time, I do remember seeing you in all of your glory in your Renaissance costume, just walking around in Bonner Springs. But no, we met for the first time officially when we came over to your place and did some practice for the Highland Games, and we did a little bit of all the events except for the caver. And then you came out to Wichita and competed with in Class C. It was really fun getting to watch you do that. And then we had some practice last weekend together. So started off as strangers and working up the friendship right now. So
Nice. Funny. That's how it always starts, too. Everybody always starts as strangers. And then it just takes one conversation or one meetup. And then before you know it, life just has changed, right?
yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy though because I've had several friendships in the past that were like, oh, I don't know who you are, and the next thing you know, like we're best friends, and it's only been like 3 days, and like it's kind of like that, like the Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends? I think so. So it's a little weird, but it's really cool at the same time that like you can just start connecting with people and it just goes off and just like a rocket.
Exactly. And I feel like it's harder when you become adults too, right? To meet friends like that. That's what I admire so much about kids. And you remember when you were a kid, it was like you're 8 or 9 years old, you're just walking up to random kids like, you want to play football? Or you want to, like you just go for it. And then you all become best friends like right away. And I feel like that's still wired in us, but we just don't give us the opportunity anymore to just walk up and talk to a stranger or, have that conversation. When I think deep down, I think everyone would probably become friends pretty quick, just like if we were kids.
Yeah, and I think part of that is it's the social structure of society as you become an adult. Like when we were kids, we were forced to be with people our own age, doing the same thing. We're all the same level. There was no hierarchy, official hierarchy. I guess there was a social hierarchy. It was like, oh, the popular kids and the nerds and this and that. But everybody was going through the same stuff. Everybody was growing up. Everybody was getting grounded. Everybody was doing sports. We were all on pretty much the same schedules. So it was real easy to be exposed and have the chances to make those relationships. And now as an adult, everybody's so busy because it's more than just your family and school. Now it's your family. Some people are still going through school. So it's work. It's your life outside of school or outside of work. And there's so many more factors. Also, the social hierarchy and bureaucracy of being an adult, keeping up appearances. Like, oh, I want to be friends with this person, but they don't get along with this crowd, so I can't do that because it might rub the wrong way over here. And just, it's so much more difficult as an adult making friends.
Yeah, it's interesting though. So you said a good word there that I liked is you said we were forced to, and I think like if we forced ourselves to have conversation with strangers, I think we'd be just fine because we play the busy card, right? And I think a lot of us there are times where we're real busy, but I think at the end of the day, I think we come up with excuses not to have those types of conversations. So because of that, right? Because we don't want to feel awkward or or maybe like, oh, they're type of this person, make all these assumptions. I went through a time in life where I actually made myself talk to strangers, and it was so awkward. Like I made a goal of like every day, I was like, I need to talk to three strangers every day. And I wrote it down in my journal as like, this is a goal. And I didn't maintain it for a super long time, but like for the few months that I was doing it, dude, it was awkward as could be just to like, dude, I haven't talked to anybody today. Like I need to go find some people. So you literally like at a coffee shop, like, hey, how's it going? Good. Like, good. You know, you come here often and you just have this conversation. And yeah, sometimes it was weird, but like I feel like it helps a lot. Um, yeah, so I kind of wish I still did that, which I still can. But it was funny that I went through a stage where I kind of forced myself to do it just as an experiment, just to kind of get through that little, I guess, social anxiety, you could say, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like that helped you a lot though too, because obviously I didn't know you before the podcast, but like you're really good at see whenever somebody cuts off and doesn't know where to keep going, you pick it right on up and you keep talking, and it's really nice that way. That's actually one of the things that so me being a manager at the PRTF, I have to be a people person when most of the time I prefer to not be a people person, because managing adults is very hard.
Mhm.
Um, like you, because my job, we are there to help kids go through their treatment and get better mentally, and then their safety throughout their life and relationships with their families and all that kind of stuff. But in order to do that, we have to have the adults that are working with them every day on the floor also be regulated on time, doing all the things that they need to be doing as to just be good role models for the kids. And my job is to make sure that they can do that and be presentable to our youth. And it's very hard because adults are adults and they don't always like being told what to do. Sometimes they're more like kids than they think they are. And it's a lot of high school drama all the time with adults, no matter what setting it is. Oh, it's just a whole lot of fun. Mm,
Yeah. Well, I mean, my thing is I don't think that when you were a kid, I always thought there was like you're a kid and then you're an adult. And that's so far from the truth. Like we're all just kids, kind of. And it's like, especially when you think, because you deal with people with trauma and stuff like that. So if you think about it, like when you have traumatic events, you kind of get frozen in time, right? So there's some people that are, yeah, they may be 40 or 50 years old, but like when it comes to certain triggers, they're like a 4 year old, right?
yeah, that's actually very very common. A lot of our kids have trauma at younger ages. So like whenever they it could be like you said any type of trigger, and then they get stuck at whatever age that they experience that trauma, and then either you can talk them out of it or they have to work out of it themselves. Um, and sometimes it's quick and sometimes it's very long. Uh, I mean, and the body remembers. Even if your mind is going to move through it, the body remembers. And it's frustrating to work with somebody like that, but at the same time, you got to tell yourself like they'll get through it, and it's just a process. Um, but another example is like people on drugs. They have that same. It's the same thing, like the thing in their brain. Like whenever you, depending on what kind of drug you're doing, like we have some of those cases too. Like you say you start doing drugs at 14 years old as a man, your brain doesn't fully develop until you're about 25, and then you're now a 37-year-old man, but you're still doing drugs. Your brain is a 14-year-old, 15-year-old kid because it just stopped. There was nowhere for it to go. So, but on your thing of everybody's just a big kid, like I don't even like kid cut off adult. I completely agree with you. I don't think that's factual at all because I'm 26, but I feel like I'm 18 a lot. Like I've always felt like I've been on the more mature side of my generation and my age bracket, but there'll be times when I'm talking with some of my other peers at work, and it's just like, man, I feel like a child compared to some of these guys, even though like I've probably been through a lot more difficult situations and more like might have more experience in some areas. They have more experience in other areas. So, you know, I think there's different categories to age. I think that's what
Yeah,
I'm trying to say.
I agree. I agree. I think experiences, a lot of experiences shape us, right? It can bring some maturity. I'd say a lot of things these days too. Thinking about it, like we have a lot less struggles. It seems like these days, as far as like physical struggles, right? We're like we still struggle with things, but like life is kind of easy, generally speaking, as far as we have everything provided for us. We have plenty of food. We don't have the same struggles, let's say, that maybe our grandparents had or their grandparents, right? So I feel like that kind of stunts us to a certain extent to where, like, back in the day when it's like, yeah, I got married at 12 and started a family. It's like, you're not going to see that. You're not going to see people even 30 years old now that are like that's, that's when they're settling down. And it's just like, it's prolonged, I think, that maturity thing, because we haven't had a reason necessarily to, unless you've been through those, those types of struggles where it's like, dang, I have to mature, or, you know, or I'm going to backslide, right? Like I gotta mature.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of maturity, I think it's taken like our society as a whole a lot longer to mature because everything, the economy is just crap, and it's just taking so much more money to be independent. So people are relying on the family system and roommates and friends way more than say previous generations where they were able to buy a house at $40,000 and pay it off within their mortgage term. It just, I think that has a factor into it as well because, like, say somebody's just living in their mom's basement forever and mom's providing everything, they don't have to mature in certain areas. So, yeah, there's a whole
Yeah.
lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah, and what's interesting though too is I agree with you to a certain extent on that, because right, like as far as wages go, yeah, like it's a lot more difficult. Like you can't just be working a job and have a house typically unless you make really really good money, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've heard that that when it comes to the actual poor, like the poor are way better off than they've ever been before, as far as food, as far as like even think about like everybody has an iPhone or some type of like handheld device, technology device that I mean
Hmm.
people back in the day wouldn't have had even anything like that, right? It was like they had nothing. So it's kind of weird. So there's like a trade off there. It's kind of like well, I guess what would you say? Like the middle lower class is struggling a lot as far as like maybe that type of
Yeah,
demographic.
because even by world standards, our poor are in the top 1%. So, like, on a global scale, we're the richest country in the world, or one of the richest countries in the world. Like, but in the United States standard, I think the poverty line is. It's been a while since I looked at the number, but I think it's high 30s, low $40,000 a year is like poverty line, trying to make ends meet. So getting all those things is like, yeah, even our poor people have it, but this is where like payment systems are really nice. So because
Hmm.
you get something that you need and make payments on it rather than just buying it outright.
Yeah.
Um, like I hate doing that, but I have to on some things.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it just proves that it's not like a simple fix, right? It's a complex issue that there's a lot of working parts, so it's hard to know exactly what the right move is. But it's interesting. So a lot of complexities.
yeah.
So going back real quick before we get into the questions, you were talking about trauma being stored in the body, and you were talking about things like that. And when I think about that, I just wanted to share, how do you handle certain situations? Because I've listened to, I've done a lot of research in that area. Obviously, I don't work in that area, so you have
Mhm.
hands-on experience. But what type of, like, how do you deal with people when it comes to nervous system? Because a lot of that stuff I don't think is like, you can't just say something because it's nervous system regulation, right? So how do you even cope with some of that stuff?
So so you're talking about when somebody is in a state of crisis and
uh
you're trying to help them work through it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So there's a type of training that we do. It's called DDP, and I think uh, it's like dyadic development, something like that. It's three words that are for psychiatrists and therapists and everybody. That's I forget sometimes, but essentially what it means is you co-regulate with two minds, because it takes if a regulated person and an unregulated person, if you match um, level, if you can match their affect, but also stay regulated and meet them on their level, and you can bring them up because everybody has a uh, fight or flight ladder. So like this is this is your ladder and this is their ladder. If they're down here in fight or flight, you can stay up here, and then you can appear. Look, it's hard to explain because I'm not a trainer in that aspect. That's a little bit more over my league, but I've been through a little bit of that training. Essentially, if you can meet them at their level and you can connect with them at some way and start bringing them up while you stay regulated, the mind knows that and it wants to connect with you. So it'll slowly bring them back up into a more regulated state where they're more neutral and they're not in that fight, flight, freeze phase. I mean, because you ever walk up to somebody and you know they're having a bad day and you can just, it like kind of changes your mood because you can feel something's off. That's the same
Mhm.
concept when they're in the fight, flight, freeze. Um, so working with kids like that, you just kind of have to um, put your feelings aside. Like you might be feeling some type of way about a certain situation, but you have to be really good at masking your own feelings to appear and to outwardly express and emanate that you are in a state of calm so they can
Mhm.
also feel calm so they can work through their trauma and come back to a more regulated state.
Got it. That makes sense. So
Yeah,
then you mentioned kind of putting your feelings aside. So then what is your outlet then? Because you can't store that in the body, right?
exactly. So that's why debriefing with your coworkers and your peers and even your supervisors or somebody or even somebody that is not in that field, obviously you can't, if they don't work at my facility, you can't go into details because of HIPAA laws, but you have to be able to go talk about your own feelings and debrief. Oh, what's correct? Your own feelings and debrief at some point. Otherwise, you will go into a little mini crisis of your own. I mean, that's why I mean, you've heard the stories of people being isolated for so long, and then sometimes they go crazy, and it's because they have nobody to talk to. They have nobody to co-regulate with.
Hmm.
So you have to be able to go talk to somebody. I mean, that's why I don't personally go to therapy, but if like those people that do go to therapy, they start feeling better is because they have an unbiased opinion or unbiased thoughts, and they can talk to you and be more logical or more empathetic, depending on what you need. You just kind of get a vent and work through some of the things that you're going through. Um, but everybody needs a person. And it doesn't have to be a therapist. It doesn't have to be your mom, your girlfriend, your wife. It can be a friend. It can be whoever you trust, but it has to be somebody that you can trust to take into consideration what you're saying and not judge you based on how you're feeling.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's funny that you said that too, because it made me think earlier this week I had the idea if I need to start a men's support group because
Yeah,
there's not enough of them out there, as you probably know. It's like there's support groups for every other demographic, but there's not a whole lot of men's support groups. So a lot of times we don't have places to turn or places to go, right? To just have those conversations and talk to people about how we feel because a lot of times people don't really care, right? And it's unfortunate, right? Like, what do you have to be upset about? You're a man, right? It's like that's beside the point, right? It's not a zero sum game. It's not one. It's not like if you help me, like you can't help other people. It's like we can all be helped. But so yeah. So once you said that, I was like, it made me think like, yeah, we need to start this men's support group. So by the way, when I start it, you're more than welcome to join. By the way,
sounds good.
so I got a whole list of people. I'm just trying to think if I need to narrow it down because I don't know if a men's support group of 40 or 50 people is going to be extremely helpful. That might be too many,
Yeah,
but
even if you do have a total membership of like 40 or 50 people,
uh,
like you can kind of go into like subgroups and break it down to like between 5 and 10 per group, and then like maybe something like that, and you just kind of
yeah,
like you do like class sizes, like you guys whenever you have an opening, you can just have somebody in that group. That way, it's everybody can still function and be part of the group, but it's not overly crowded. If that makes sense.
yeah, for sure, yeah. And that was actually what I was running my head through is thinking about doing that because I'd like it to be, I think, have a virtual. virtual space where we just connect, so then it can be no matter where you're at, we can all connect. And then I was thinking about maybe retreats where we can like, hey, so this, maybe once a quarter, something like, hey, we're gonna go do this hike or something. We're gonna go out of town, and we just like whoever wants to go, let's go. This is how much it's gonna cost. We'll go camping.
Yeah,
I just think us men need to do men things, right? We need to do man things. We need to go lift things. We need to camp. We need to go hike. We need to be able to be open about how we feel. We need to like all this stuff. We need to have each other's backs. So I think that's important.
yeah. I mean, I'm down for that. I mean, because it's all the time like, oh, you're a man, so just suck it up and deal with it and suffer in silence because nobody gives a shit about what you have to say and how you feel. Because yeah, we do all the work, but we get hardly any of the praise or the recognition. It feels like,
Yeah.
um, because how many times this week has some random person came up and gave you a compliment? Like I can probably bet that it's less than three.
Yeah. It's only been at work.
Yeah. So and it kind of takes me off guard whenever I'm just walking out in public, and the main one I get is, "Man, nice beard." And I was like, "Thanks." And it's usually like older guys that also have a nice beard or have used to have a nice beard, and they're like, "Dude, that's a nice beard. How'd you get it like that?" And it's like genetics and just taking care of it, and you just have that mini conversation, and it kind of feels good. It's like it makes you feel like you're doing something right. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like small compliments. Men don't hear compliments enough. Like women are showered in compliments as they should be, but we need to feel some of that love too. So
Agreed.
I completely agree with your men's group.
Okay. Sweet. Well, you're in. You're the first member.
Sounds good.
Sweet. Okay, cool. So we'll get into the questions now, but I've loved our conversation so far. So, how this works, just for the viewers out there, is I gave you a set of questions. You were
Hmm.
able to look at it, practice as much as you want, and then all we're going to do is go through the questions and you answer them. And the goal is for you and the audience, hopefully, to connect with your story and kind of who you are as a person. So, we'll start at the beginning. What was growing up like for you?
Okay, so I grew up in Pleasant Hill, Missouri. At the time I was growing up, it was between 6 and 8 thousand people, so it was not a small town, but not a big town. Obviously now it's grown even more, but I had a class of 174. I was the oldest of four kids. I have two younger brothers and a youngest sister. Um, and I grew up with my mom and my stepdad because my dad had passed when I was before kindergarten, so it was in 2004. I was 4, 5, something like that. It was in the middle of the summer, and I was born in October, so I think I was 4. Um, so started off my life a little bit of an angry child because I was young enough, but also old enough that I remembered my dad. And then my stepdad came into the picture like a year or two later. So I kind of always had that resentment, like, you're not my dad. So that was a couple hiccups that I had in my life in that picture. But then I also had my siblings that were wanting to be like me, but wanting to be their own people. And like as siblings go, like if anybody that has siblings, like if they're the oldest, like you're the oldest, so you're going to be the strong one, the backbone of the family. You're going to be the example, but you're also going to be the one that takes the brunt of everything else. And if something goes wrong, um, which is also one of like a factor in growing up as a man. Like I'm the oldest man in the family, so I took a lot and kind of internalized everything because I had to be the strong one for my siblings. But I grew up like that. I had just a couple friends. I mean, because like I said, I was an angry child for the first 14, 15 years of my life because it kind of felt like I didn't start off on the right foot because of my dad going the way he did with a car wreck. So I had lived in Grandview before that, or Belton area. Um, Moved to Pleasant Hill, started kindergarten, had a couple friends that across the street and then next to me. So it was kind of the trio of us for the longest time. Um, Moving up through the grades, everything was going okay. I started some sports. My first sport was t-ball. Didn't really, I did like baseball type stuff up until I was in fourth grade because actually on the way to sign-ups for baseball in fourth grade, my mom found out that I got in trouble at school that day. So she's like, "No, screw you. You're not going to. You're not going to go do this because you can't behave in school." And I'm like, "What the heck?" So we turned around and went home, and that was the end of my baseball career because I never played again after that. Darn. Um, but I did everything. I played soccer, started football when I was third grade, I think. Started whatever it is that you start playing tackle because I never played flag. I think it's third grade that you start tackle football, or back then it was. I wrestled from the time I was in kindergarten, and I wrestled from kindergarten up until my freshman year of college. Excuse me. Uh, didn't take up track until I was in eighth grade, so I didn't know it was a thing until then. I was like, since seventh grade that year was winding down, I was like, "What are you guys doing? Like, why are you like coming back all sweaty, wearing tank tops with the school logo on it? What are you like? What's that?" Like, "Oh, we're going to track practice." And I was like, "What?" So I was like, "Okay, I'll look out for that next year because you're throwing heavy objects and running fast." Like, I'm fast. That was back when I weighed like 150 pounds. That was way long ago. Um, but yeah, and then when I got into high school, my sister got diagnosed with ALL leukemia, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, because she got real sick and went to the doctor and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. And then finally they happened to do the right test and they found out that she had cancer, um, which is really great and bad at the same time because she was only sick for 3 days before they found out. Like they caught it within 3 days of it forming, which was fantastic, and it really helped her healing process because they were able to get on it so quick rather than it progressing into stage two or stage three, where they're going to have to kick it into high gear to kill the cancer. So I think I was a she was in seventh grade. Fun fact: all my siblings are 3.5 years apart. Me and my sister, the oldest and youngest, are 3.5 years apart. Um, so whenever I was a senior, the three of my siblings were in each grade. So I think she was in seventh grade. He was eighth. I was a sophomore when my sister got diagnosed. So she was going through treatment for into my junior or senior year of high school, and then she finally completed it. She was bald for a little while, had some wigs, eyes bugged out. Um, this is kind of insensitive, but that was mine and her way of staying normal. Is I would pick on her a little bit, so I called her a little toad, a little frog, because her eyes would bug out a little bit because of treatment and the way that her body was fighting it. So, I mean, we're okay with it. I don't call her that anymore. Her eyes have since come back into her head, so she's not so buggy anymore. But that was my way of helping her feel normal because I didn't want to make her feel like she was less of a person or not able to do anything because she was sick. And then from there, she got better, and I was still doing my sports in high school. In high school, it was more of football, wrestling, track, and that's what I did. Um, I played just about every position in football, but I was more of a linebacker and a fullback, running back my freshman and sophomore year, and then my junior year I moved into a linebacker and a tight end. And in my senior year, my actually one of my wrestling coaches wanted me to transition into being a nose tackle on the defense, and then I would still play tight end on the offense. I was the smallest nose in the conference at 112 pounds. but my wrestling background made it to where I could get underneath of you and through you real quick. It was nice. I was at also my last game of my senior year. I was the leading receiver. It was really cool against Oak Grove, which Pleasant Hill and Oak Grove. We don't like Oak Grove because they used to kick our butts all the time. But um, and this is another like sad moment, but also kind of victorious for me and the team. The first time we played Oak Grove my senior year was towards the end of the season. But it was a Friday as usual, Friday Night Lights. It was an away game. We right before we went to go play the game, I found out my grandpa died. So I kind of used that rage to go beat some ass on the opposing team. And I kind of channeled it, and we ended up winning. And then the second time we played, we got stomped. So, and then I moved into wrestling season and ended up beating some high profile wrestlers in the state of Missouri. Earned myself the number one ring spot in Missouri at 195 pounds. Or not, sorry. Yeah, it was 195. Yeah, back when we had 14 weight classes in high school, now they redid all the weight classes, so they're all weird again. So I was 195 in high school, my junior and senior year, but I was ranked number one my senior year. Made it all the way to state. I was a three-time state appearance. Went into my first round at state and was winning, and wasn't being as active on my feet as I probably should have been. I had 10 seconds left in the match, and I was up on score. Kid took a shot, and I tried to sprawl. My feet didn't come out from underneath me like they should have, and he blew right through my knee and tore everything except for my PCL on my right knee. So, I mean, imagine you're trying to move and your foot gets caught, and then your knee is supposed to open like this, but it does this. And he just destroyed my knee. And then he ended up going 0-2 his next two matches. So, I mean, I blew my knee out for nothing. It was a whole fun time. So, never won a medal at state, even though I was ranked number one going in. And then I had to miss out on my track season for my senior year because I was on a road of 7 months of recovery, doing all that stuff. And then I tried wrestling again in my freshman year of college and never won a match. Taking 7 months off and then not having all the strength that I used to, and entering in a whole other beast of college wrestling. I think I'm one of the only people in history, probably exaggerating, that got third place at a tournament and not ever winning a match. Because, and that tournament still makes me so mad because I was going up against other freshmen, but they were D1 freshmen. And my first match, I went up against one of the big freshmen from Iowa, Hawkeyes, and I put him from feet to back. I had him flat on his back as a little D3 wrestler because I went to Buena Vista University in Storm Lake, Iowa. And I don't know if the ref had some bias because I was D3 and he was D1 and he was a high profile person or what, or if I actually didn't have him flat, but I went back and watched the video and he was stuck, but he never did call it, and I didn't have the stamina like I used to, and he ended up beating me. And then my next match, I ended up putting him feet to back as well, kind of same thing. The ref never called it, and then I go into my last match for third or fourth place, and the guy forfeits. He didn't want to come wrestle me. I don't know if he was scared because he saw what I did to the other guys, or if he just didn't want to get hurt or what. But yeah, I never actually won a match that I wrestled and got third place. Kind of shitty. But after that, I got forced to cut from 197 down to 183 or 184. But at that time, I was fluctuating real hard from making weight at 197, and I was about 212 whenever I wasn't cutting for the tournaments. So I cut from 212 ish, 220 ish. I can't even remember two something with the two. And I cut down 183 pounds in a month, and I took the last 18 of it off in a week, and I was dead. And I could step out on the mat to expect to wrestle somebody, and they didn't have anybody. So I got my hand raised and walked off the mat, but I was kind of mad that I cut all that weight to not wrestle. And then that was right before Christmas for that my freshman year of college, and I told my coach is either you let me go back up to 197 or I'm done. So kind of gave him an ultimatum, and he said, "Let me think about it." And he texted me back, and he said, "Yeah, you can move back up." I moved back up, and nothing changed. I couldn't do it anymore. I finished out the season, and that's when I kind of realized that I'm gonna go full time track because I was already doing track, but I missed my indoor season for wrestling. So I did wrestling for that first semester, and then I was track for the next 4.5 years because I was in college for 5 years. Um, Started off really mediocre, and because I hadn't competed in 2 years, because my senior year I didn't get to do it in high school. I was going off. I got recruited off my junior year marks, and honestly, my throws coach, didn't want me because I'm not very big. I didn't have very impressive marks, and he didn't pick me. It was one of our other coaches at the time. He was a distance coach, but he was doing some recruiting. And I didn't find that out until like my junior year or senior year that he's like, "Yeah, I didn't want you at first." I was like,
Uh,
"Thanks, Mayor. I appreciate you." Um, but we ended up having a really good relationship after that. But yeah, I worked my way up and started getting my techniques down, and I started winning some meets and doing some good marks and getting in the top 10 lists on all my throws except for the javelin because I'm not built for javelin at all. I'm short and stubby. I don't have very long arms and I don't have a long frame and I'm not very flexible. So I couldn't produce the right amount of force to throw the javelin. I did, however, kind of soar um, above everybody else that has ever been to that school in the weight throw and the hammer throw. So I still hold the school records for the weight and the hammer. So the indoor weight's 35 pounds, and the outdoor hammer weighs 16 pounds, and I've got those records still. Um, and I kind of mess with them because my coach was Shane Mayer. He was um, a national champion at the or not maybe not I don't know Big Ten champion. Sorry, Big Ten champion for Iowa back when he was in school. But he was our college coach, and I was like, "Hey, I know you didn't want me, but I just broke the records." He's like, "Yeah, you funny." So we had a pretty good relationship. Um, those pictures I sent you, he was the big dude that I was posing with in a couple of my pictures with the other red beard. That was my coach. Um, so yeah, and then I did all that. Was there for 5 years because of COVID. COVID happened it was during my junior year of college, right after I came back from a Harry Potter themed trip to the UK, because I am a giant Harry Potter nerd. So of course I spent $4,200 to go over to the UK for 12 days to go tour the filming sites and walk around London and Edinburgh and the city of Bath and Glasgow and Glencoe and Loch Ness. And I was drunk for 12 days straight, so it was awesome. I got to hike up in the mountains where they had the original Hagrid's hut on the side of the mountain next to the forest. Ran up on a whole herd of Highland deer that was kind of intimidating because they're huge. Um, so I hiked back down the mountain and left them alone because I did not want to get trampled because they were not scared of me. Um, yeah, and then after I graduated, I bought a house up in the hood. I graduated in May and I bought the house in September of 22. Been up here ever since. Ended up going to the Renaissance Festival for the first time that year and got introduced to Lee Roberts, and he got me connected with the people doing the Highland Games. Um, and kind of went on from there. I started doing the Highland Games. I started working at the PRTF, doing renovations on my house and being with my dogs. And then now we're here today. I know that was kind of long but abbreviated, but that's the general how I got to where I was today.
yeah, nice. Okay, so there's a lot of so you've been through. It's funny for being 26. You've been through a lot.
Yeah.
right? Which is in it, and you've hit like a lot of different things too. Like, I mean, you had your father pass away when you were young, but right, you were old enough to for it to actually really affect you, right? So you had to maneuver that. And then you said you had your sister who got leukemia. Um, yeah, it's so interesting. So I've had so I had my best friend actually. So he has leukemia. So he still does. So he got leukemia in high school, and he's still kicking. But I guess they were going to do a bone marrow transplant, but they told him he wouldn't be like the percentage of him living wasn't very good. So he never did it. So he's just been medicating it for a long period of time. But
Do you know what kind he has?
I don't. I should know. I wonder if he talks about it. He was my guest on episode 6, so
Okay.
so you can always kind of refer to that, and he might talk about it. But yeah, he's went through a lot with that. So he had that, and then he's had cancer that had to get removed over the past couple years. But yeah, he's still kicking it, and he's doing a lot of art stuff, and he's all things considered, he's doing really well. So it is definitely interesting. Being close to someone who's been through something like that, you know.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think to that point when you talked about how you treated her normally, right? I think that's kind of the same concept. Is we still hung out, we still do things as you normally would, right? And I think that means a lot because I think people want to give people sympathy, but I don't think people actually want that when they're in that space.
No, and she really didn't like. But she did get sympathy because she ended up being a Make a Wish kid and
Mhm.
got to do some more fun stuff and got given free trips and free this and free that, and it kind of helped her feel better. But she, I mean, she just wanted to be able to do normal stuff, and like she wanted to go to school to be a life flight nurse and doing all that stuff because she wanted to give back to everybody else. I mean, that's how I got to go to Universal and Disney the first time, is because that's where she wanted to go for her Make a Wish trip. So we took the whole family down there, and we were down there for 4 or 5 days, and it was fun. Um, but no, on this the subject of the cancer, I don't know if anybody knows this, but it's kind of a fun fact, but also a horrible fact, that if your sibling gets cancer, your chances, this is at least what I've been told, your chances go up by 50% that you're going to also get cancer. So now that it's been in, because all of my siblings share the same parents, so my sister got it, beat it really quick because they caught it and she was young. My chances are now going up. Plus, my paternal grandfather that died, he died of cancer in his lungs. So my chances are also higher now because I'm a man and I came from my dad's side. Um, so yeah, I mean, I kind of joke around like, oh, you're gonna. I like I joke around about death because I have dark humor and that's how I cope with life. I just have a dark sense of humor. I'm not like, oh, I'm not going to make it to such and such age if somebody's talking about this. And I'm like, I'm going to get cancer and die. I mean, because the statistically, that's how I'm going to go. But you never know. I could be the on the off chance I don't get any of it and I live until I'm 125. But I
Mhm.
don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. So, what do you think? I know there's tons of things out there that say what causes cancer, but in your idea, so what do you think causes cancer? Do you think it's something that is hereditary, that it's passed on, or do you think it's what causes it, in your opinion?
I think everybody has a certain genetic predisposition to certain forms of cancer based on your biology and genetic mutations. Um, but as of what causes it, I'm not for sure, obviously, because I'm not a biologist or a scientist. But according to California, a lot of shit causes cancer. Uh,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I think just the certain exposure to maybe some types of combinations of materials or environments maybe will awaken some of those cells that start um, the cancer process. I mean, because everybody's got cancer cells inside of them. It's just whether or not they become active. Um, so I don't know, like, because there's a lot of stuff that I've touched and messed with that are supposed to cause cancer, but I still have all my hair and I'm not laying in a medical bed. So I don't know. That's the best answer I can give you. Is I'm not quite sure.
It's fair. I don't know if anybody really knows. I think that's why it's why they say everything can cause it.
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the conspiracy that like there's been several cures to cancer, and then every time somebody finds it, they get offed?
I have heard that. I haven't done a lot of research into it, but I've heard about it.
I love conspiracy theories so much.
What's your thought on fasting? I've been hearing things lately where people believe that if you fast long enough, that your body will get rid of those cancer cells. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. From a logical standpoint, I don't think that makes much sense. Um, because cancer is an energy drainer, and to fight it, you need energy in the body. But if you don't intake anything, then you're not going to have the energy to fight it. Because people are going through cancer, they're eating and drinking as much as they can, and they still are very drained. Um, and doing some of the research for my sister, we came across I think it was a husband and wife that they did a bunch of research, and the wife was telling my mom that the husband changed his diet to fight the cancer and doing a natural approach to that, because cancer thrives in the body, and the body's naturally acidic. So he changed his diet, and over a course of a period of time, his body became more basic, um, because alkaline and basic, or acidic and alkaline. So his body became more alkaline, um, and essentially kind of killed the cancer, and kind of it helped him get better and got rid of it, and now he's fine. But it takes a long time to do that, and you have to eat the right foods, and you have to intake the right liquids and all while taking your medicine. And you got to be real careful with that. So I've not actually heard that theory about fasting kills cancer, so that's an interesting one I might have to look into.
Yeah, I'll share it with you if I come across it again. It was just a fascinating theory, and I'm all about like cutting edge research and just seeing what's out there just for fun, just to see what it is. And usually people's perspective is like that makes sense in theory. And for me, in my opinion, like it's free to do. So if I was to ever have something like that, it's like, well, first thing I'd do is maybe just fast for 3 or 4 days and see what happens. You
Yeah.
know, but I've heard the diet thing too. I've heard because particularly what cancer feeds off sugars and stuff like that, right?
Yes. Pretty sure.
So yeah, so I've heard of people, yeah, switching up diet and kind of changing that too. So it is interesting. So I wonder how much of that is nutrition based too at the core.
Yeah, I'm gonna lay off the hot dogs and eat more natural foods.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Cool. So next question. So what's the biggest struggle that you've made it through?
Ooh, my childhood. I know I touched on everything a little bit briefly, but going through all the losses and stuff I did, and then obviously you can see that I'm half ginger and fair complected. Like the kids that I grew up with were kind of brutal, and they made fun of me for not having a dad, and made fun of me for being too white, and then because I was very white and prone to anger because of my losses, I was known as the angry kid, and I would turn red because I'm so pale. So they make fun of me for that even more. And the older kids just couldn't quite leave me alone until I was big enough to fight back. And then finally, as I was growing up, I didn't have to deal with that stuff anymore because I got big and I stayed big, and a lot of people didn't want to mess with me anymore. Um, but I think, yeah, I think the biggest struggle I went through was just probably K through 11, K through 10, just that whole period of time. I mean, because now it's just like normal everyday adult problems that I'm going through. Car not working, or having to go to work and have a tough conversation, or dog goes missing, like all that normal kind of stuff. But yeah, I think getting picked on and bullied a lot, and growing up and losing some people. Oh yeah, right before I went to college too, my one of my best friends, that remember the three us little our little trio. It's my neighbor that lived right next to me. He committed suicide, and then that was kind of rough. Um, yeah, I would say my adolescence was probably the toughest period I went through.
Got it. So how do you feel like bullying affected you?
Oh, I don't tolerate it now hardly at all, and especially since now I work with kids.
Mhm.
People are bullying, the kids are bullying each other. I kind of snap at them, and we take care of that pretty quick because they're all there for a reason, and they're not going to make their time harder because you want to bully somebody. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, bullying is, in a sense, some of it is healthy. I think everybody needs to experience some of it to an extent, but there's always a limit. Like, I don't think anybody needs to be physically bullied, beat up, this and that. But a little teasing here and there might be healthy, so you can kind of learn to defend yourself and grow a little bit of a backbone and stuff like that. Like, I think it helped me in a way, but it was also really shitty because I like it was kind of nonstop for the longest time.
Yeah.
But in general, if you don't know when to quit, or if it's not like bullying amongst friends, because like there's a difference between like your friends picking on you and like people that they don't like you just because they don't like you and they're gonna pick on you for that reason. But I think a little bit of hazing and bullying is healthy, but when it starts going overboard, that's when it becomes detrimental. And then the line between healthy and detrimental was kind of dependent on the person, I think.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, because I think we want to protect everybody from every little detail, but I don't think that's wise. I think that has its own ramifications because if you protect people from everything when they're young, then you find out the real world is not quite like that. You kind of you're not resilient, right? I think that's kind of an interesting topic because it's like you can go both ways with it because you don't want to have bullies, you don't want to create an environment that it's literally like it's hell to go through essentially. But then again, you don't want to make it too safe to where you you have no resiliency. So the minute you get older and the smallest thing happens, where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm anxious. I don't know if I'm going to make it through this. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting. There's a fine line there for sure.
Yeah, because I think because I'm technically, depending on the classification, I'm a really young millennial or a really old Gen Z. So on the one end of the spectrum, the people that got a lot of bullying, the boomers and Gen X, that's how they turn out when they have a lot more of that. And then the younger Gen Z and Alpha that we have now is none of it, or
Uh-huh.
are being protected from everything. So I think I got a healthy mixture in hindsight. Like it sucked growing up, but I think looking back, it was probably for the best, and for me personally.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the older generation and the younger generation that we've got right now are good ends of the spectrum on what could happen if you get too far in either direction.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. The older I get, the more I realize almost everything is all about balance. Now, trying to figure out where that middle ground is, what the balance is tricky. But at the same time, like, yeah, everything in its extremes is terrible. Politically speaking, it's that way. I mean, just in
Mm-hmm.
everyday life, it's like you go too far one way, it's actually not good. You got to
No,
figure out the middle, but you want to be able to have both. So
and you
yeah,
never
that's very
kind of figure it
interesting.
out until it's past. Like
Yeah.
it's always hindsight, and like that's something that I kind of learned because when I was in college, I majored in history. I ended up getting a degree in history after changing my major 3 times because I was a computer science major, and then I found that I can't do math, so I switched it up and did education. I was going to be a high school history teacher, and then because this is before COVID, I didn't want to be there for 5 years, so I dropped the education so I could just keep the history and graduate in 4 years. And then COVID happened, and I got another year of eligibility for track. So I was like, well, shit, I should have kept it because I was going to be there for 5 years anyway. So I just ended up graduating with a history degree, and a lot of that is we don't even study anything in the past until 30 years have passed. So like it doesn't become history that becomes studied until 30 years by like the professionals.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird that you don't know anything until you look back on it. Like you never know in the moment if what you're doing is good or if it's bad.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's because we don't know what our decisions, what the outcome is of those, right? Yet, and I think that's the part of it is like we can self reflect, we can ask ourselves questions, we can try to analyze it, and I think for the most part that can help. But I mean, you as well as I know, like there's moments in your life where maybe it sucked or it was you thought it was really great and ended up not being, and we didn't know that until we saw the result of those things, and now you look back and like, oh, so that's why. Okay, so this was terrible because of this, or this was great because So yeah, there's something to that for sure.
Yeah, I think that's why some people are like, "Oh, I hated high school," and now that they get older, they're looking back like, "Man, I wish I could go back." Like I'm starting to get to the point where I'm thinking about it, and I was like, "Well, shit, I kind of miss doing football practice or going to wrestling tournaments and doing track while I was in high school." But at the time, I was like, this class sucks and I don't want to be here, and like my teacher's a D bag and my coach is being mean and my friends are bullying me, and now I just look back and I remember the good stuff. Like it's kind of
Mhm.
crazy that you don't know what you're missing until it's already gone.
Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah, the human
Okay,
the human experience is very interesting.
exactly. Okay, so what are you currently going through?
Currently going through, oof, constantly going through troubles with my car.
Yeah.
I get one thing fixed and then something else happens. So like I get my alternator fixed, and now my compressor for my car doesn't work. So I'm going into summertime, and I don't have AC in my car. And me being prone to like heat stroke, and because I have the ginger gene, which makes my pain tolerance really high, and my tolerance to substances like alcohol and drugs very high, but it reduces my tolerance to heat and sun. So like usually once a year for about 3 weeks, I'll get heat rash everywhere, all over my body, and it constantly itches and hurts. And I'll just have hives all over my body because I get too hot and I just can't come back down. So I've got that. So there's always something new with my car. Um, Work right now is okay. Um, it's just some people just keep talking, and you got to get through people talking. And it's always people that just need to stop running their mouth. That's all I say about
Oh,
that. But those are honestly those are the only two, like I wouldn't even say issues, but those are the two things that I'm going through right now. Because other than that, I can't keep to myself. It's just me and my girlfriend Ellie. We live here with our 3 dogs, and I'll talk to my mom every now and then. I'll talk to my sister every now and then, but I don't speak to my other 2 brothers, so I kind of stay out of their drama. So
got it.
yeah,
Yeah, I know all about the car issues, by the way. So good now. I decided to buy a newer car, so I've enjoyed that. And then I have my Toyota, which for some reason, Toyota Highlanders, those things run forever, and I've had no issues. I'm like approaching 300,000 miles, and my 2006 is just like, I got a new car because I figure this thing's going to die soon, but I never have to take it to the shop. It's insane.
you know why? Because Toyota, I actually saw some videos and some research about this. Toyota made they're a Japanese company. They made their vehicles purposely knowing that people weren't going to take care of them. So they made them idiot proof that they were going to run forever with next to no maintenance. As
Hmm.
opposed to German cars that you have to take care of them on time very regularly, or they're just going to shit themselves and fall apart.
Hmm.
Um, and it's kind of ingenious, honestly. Like you make something knowing that people aren't going to take care of it, and it still runs no matter what. Like it could be missing a lung, and it's still just going to keep on trucking like it's got 2 of them.
Yeah, it's wild, super wild. Yeah, but everything works in it fine. But some of my previous cars, I mean, there were plenty of times where just driving with the windows down just because AC wasn't working and I didn't feel like getting it fixed because I didn't have any money. So just rolling it and just having some fun. But man, those were hot times. The worst, I think, is I would rather have that than also my heat didn't work in one of my cars either.
Whoa.
So that was my least favorite is you can't really thaw out your car. The heat would eventually kick on, you
Yeah,
know, enough. But dude, it was the worst. I just remember driving to school and having like this little hole like scraped off where I could see throughout there and just freezing. So yeah, I prefer not having AC to not having heat, that's for sure.
I honestly prefer not to have heat because I love the cold
Really?
better. I mean, because right now I've got 480 AC, which means I've got 4 windows that are down going 80 miles an hour. I've got 480 AC in my car because the compressor doesn't work, so it just blows hot air. Um, I can deal with not having heat because my thought process is you can always put on more layers, but in the summertime when it gets hot, you can't get more naked than naked, and it's not socially acceptable to walk around without no pants on. Like you just
It's
can't.
true. It's true. You can only take off so much. I
Yeah,
agree with that. Um, and yeah, I think I'm the opposite. I don't like cold, but I can do heat just fine. So
yeah.
yeah,
That comes back to what we were talking about. That practice is like I'm all like Northern European, Scandinavian. I'm built to fight people in the snow with a sword and drink alcohol. I am not built for the heat in the slightest. I can't do it. I blend
that's
in with
fair.
the snow, not with the grass.
Nice. Okay, so next question. So, who is someone who's changed your life but doesn't know it?
Changed my life, but doesn't know it. I'd probably have to say most of my sports coaches. Like, I can't narrow it down to anyone specific because, like, and it's always been my male coaches because having that dynamic of having my stepdad growing up, um, and he's probably never going to see this, and if he does, it's because my mom showed it to him. But it's nothing that he's not already been told and I've already expressed. But when I was a kid, he was a very good example of what not to be like. So I didn't really have a strong male influence, positive male influence at home. It was always through sports. So it was my wrestling coaches, my football coaches, track coaches that helped me get through um, and be the role models that guided me towards the person that I am today. I mean, because when my grandpa died, when I was sitting in my homeroom class, when I found out on Facebook that my grandpa died and I was getting ready to go to a football game, it was my head coach that came down to give me a hug while I was bawling in the middle of the classroom. That helped me out. It was my wrestling coaches when my sister had cancer that came through and kind of supported me and kind of backed and came in like a family to help us get through that. It was coaches, my track coach in college when I was struggling with drama from back home because my siblings can't get their shit right. That was talking me through stuff and helping me out. Got me a side job that I could go do and make some more money to help me get through because I was the one putting myself through college. So, I mean, yeah, it's they probably have an idea, but um, yeah, I've never actually just straight up told them that they'd change my life, which I probably could. I have all of their phone numbers. Um, but yeah, it's probably my coaches.
Yeah, coaches they have a huge impact on people because you're not the first person to say that. I think I've had a few people on, including myself, that when I thought about people that changed my life that I never told or that maybe didn't know it, yeah, it was coaches. And it maybe goes back to the point of what we said earlier is that, as men, we don't have a lot of support people, but yet coaching was a place to get, some support essentially.
Yeah,
Um, and it's cool too because a lot of times when people, have maybe not so good father figures, etc. It's people. I mean, kids they latch onto that, right? Like they're looking for a positive male role model, and coaches sometimes fill that, right? So I think coaches can very much be a positive role model on what you should be or be there to support you, but also it could be the opposite too. You mentioned, right, being able to learn from, what not to do. And I've had plenty of experiences like that too. Like some of the people that have changed my life for the positive were actually things that they did that I just decided I didn't want to do.
yeah,
So you get to see it full force there. But yeah, so I've been actually trying to get one of my coaches on this podcast for a bit, and we were so close once. We had like little something kind of fell through, and we had to cancel,
yeah,
and we haven't been able to do it yet. But I've been trying to get him on because he was someone that was very impactful for sure.
yeah. I mean, my stepdad, he's come a long way. He's been in my life since I was 5, and I'm now 26. I mean, he's come a long way, and some of it was by force because I didn't. Once I was old enough, I kind of started stepping back up when I didn't agree with what was going on. we kind of got into it a couple times. But yeah, he's come a long way, especially in the last couple of years. We're a lot better off than what it was when he was first around. Um, yeah.
That's
So
good.
yeah.
Good. Okay. So what's a skill or talent you could share with us?
Oh, so skill or talent? I guess it kind of ties into like one of your other questions, but I growing up, one of my hobbies. I don't know if you remember the show Deadliest Warrior,
Yeah, I do.
where they pit um, guys or warriors from different backgrounds together and see who wins. I kind of got a lot of inspiration from that. So when I was a kid, I would just go out with some power tools and pocket knife and go out and make weapons out of wood. And so I would go out and I would make wooden swords, or I'd make spears, or I made crossbows and regular bows. Um, and actually, for a school project, I made a trebuchet that launched golf balls over 200 feet in the air. And I'm now the reason that my high school is not allowed to do that project anymore because I made one that was so efficient and deadly that they're like, we're going to rethink this because they had done that project for many years before I became a freshman. And when I became a freshman, I got the chance to make that. They had a 25-pound counterbalance weight limit, and I used 22 and a half pounds with my trebuchet, and it was deadly. Because for whatever reason, they decided to make us shoot them off in the gym. So, and we had a really good sized gym. Bleachers pulled back and everything. We were on one side. I launched that thing, and you're supposed to get two shots to demonstrate how it worked. I pulled the pin, and it poof, and hit the top corner of the other wall in the ceiling and was still climbing. And I got one shot. They're like, you get an A, you're done. Like, you're not allowed to shoot it again because, yeah. And I really, like, I've thought about it every day since that day. And I was a freshman in, I think, 2013. So, like, it's been 12 years that I want to make a 10-foot trebuchet and see what I can do with it because it would be so much fun. Um, but that translates into now I do woodworking projects and I make stuff like that. I've made wooden practice swords. I mean, this is a spear that I'm working on behind me. It's a little crooked, but adds character. Like if you can see, there's a little bit of carving that for the handle that is super grippy that I've put together. I've got um, a dirk is a traditional Scottish um, knife and I've made a wooden dirk that is up on my shelf right now. I've made wooden axes and practice swords and all kinds of stuff like that. Like I make rings. Like here's examples of rings that I've made out of wood, and I've made combs. I'm making a comb for one of my coworkers right now out of wood, and gonna sell that. I've made pots. So I think that's the thing I'm doing. It's also my little side hustle I'm trying to work up.
Okay. Sweet. I dig it.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, Deadliest Warrior was sweet. I used to watch it all the time too. And I was surprised with how some of those weapons work. Some were pretty deadly, some weren't as efficient as you'd think. Dude,
Yeah.
I remember the katana episode. That thing blew my mind.
Yeah.
Just the way they were just cutting through stuff. It's like I knew katanas were awesome, but like watching them in action, I was like, dude, what?
You ever
It's
held one?
crazy. Not a real one. I have like a cheap one, but I've never held a real one, no.
So I have two katanas hanging on my wall by my kitchen, actually. One is a replica of the Snake Eyes from GI Joe,
Nice.
and I have another one that has a, I think it's a resin dragon handle, and it's battle ready. Like I guess it's classified as a Honshu katana, so it's like they're classified as battle ready and sharp, but it's on the cheaper end. Like it's less than $200. But I also collect swords and weapons. So like here's a little cheap set that my sister got for me for my birthday or Christmas one year, and then I've got all like if I could give you a tour of my house right now, you would see weapons everywhere, and I love it.
Nice. I used to collect a lot of weapons, and then I moved too much, and I was tired of carrying them all around with me.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
it's definitely
yeah,
a lot. I mean, because like there's a couple right here. There's a 130 plus year old shotgun. There is a Scottish sword. There is my Highland Games fork. There is my spear that has a frog gig on it right now. It's a little 5 point prong. Um, there's two machetes and an axe. It's that this little handle is my axe down here.
uh,
I mean, I've got them everywhere. Like above my door is twin swords that magnet together, so they look like one until you pull them apart and it's two.
nice.
Oh yeah, like I've got stuff everywhere.
Yeah. See, I kept a few, but not swords. I have, yeah, some knives that I kept and some throwing stars for fun, just because I used to have a blast just competing with people. Like, hey, let's see how far we can get, and like play horse basically with throwing stars in
Yeah,
a tree. That was fun. But yeah, I used to have swords and stuff, some cool ones. But it's just I moved so much that I was just got to the point where I was like, anybody wants some swords, and I just started giving them to friends. Like whoever was like, I'll take some. Like, thanks, man. Here, just take them. You're good.
yeah.
Um, yeah, just not
Hopefully you
my
start,
thing anymore. Huh?
hopefully you start winning some more doing the games. Hopefully we go to the right games and we start getting swords as prizes.
Exactly. So if that's the case, then I'm all up for it. But yeah, I'm not going out of my way to buy swords anymore.
That was for the longest time. That was the crux of my existence because I was like so obsessed with like I love weapons and I want more of them all the time that I would just go out and I would buy knives and swords and axes and all that kind of stuff. And I've slowed down doing it a lot because it got to the point where like I have all of these things and I don't use any of them and I don't have enough wall space in this house currently to display them. So I
Yeah.
end up piling them up in a corner looking like um, a warrior's cache over here, like, oh, come loot the corner, see what you can get for the zombie apocalypse. Um, so yeah, I've kind of slowed down a little bit, but I want to keep winning some of them. So like there's a hammer that Tom Van Vleck made that I won at my games in Kirksville
Nice.
here at his place. That was the prize was like a hammer that he made.
That's legit.
Yeah.
Okay, so this question wasn't on the list, but you brought it up, so I'm curious. Okay,
Okay.
what weapon would you pick if you could only pick one for a zombie apocalypse?
Ooh. Any weapon or any realistic weapon?
I mean, any that you have,
Any that I
or that you could potentially get.
Okay, so I have two answers.
Okay.
So the any weapon, like any weapon, even if it doesn't exist, I would pick a lightsaber because
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't count.
yeah.
But yes, tell me why.
So it's actually so it's there's this set of guys, and for whatever reason, I'm drawing a blank on their name. Sellsword Arts on YouTube. I actually met the guy at the KC Run Fest, but like he's based somewhere else, but he was originally from Kansas City, I think. But they do a video, and I completely agree with it. Like a lightsaber would be the perfect weapon in the zombie apocalypse because it's portable, it's lightweight, and it cuts through everything. And like they had said, most of the infections come through fluids that touching the body, and a lightsaber cauterizes every cut immediately. So there's no fluid
Oh,
exchange. So
got
the
it.
lightsaber would be a perfect weapon in a zombie apocalypse, and their batteries are near infinite, so you never have to worry about them dying. Um,
Nice.
so realistic answer is a little bit more complicated because everything else is going to be heavier and is going to have to go into maintenance. And so that is a more nuanced answer, which I think is also dependent on what type of situation because like historically the spear is like one of the best weapons ever, but that's for live opponents that care about their bodies. Zombies are mindless, they don't care, and you have to stab the brain or kill the brain. So oh, if you had unlimited ammo and you could stay away from everybody else, I would choose a bow because or sorry, not unlimited ammo. If you could sustain making arrows, I would choose a bow because you can always go pick up arrows and you can make more arrows really cool. really easy, not really cool, really easily if you know how to do it. However, ammo, if, in a zombie apocalypse, the grid's going to go down, so you're not always going to have the facilities to make ammunition. So, like, yeah, a gun would be great for the longest time until you run out of ammunition, and then it just turns into a club, and you don't really want to club a zombie's brain in.
Uh,
Um, but if it was a close range weapon, you don't want something that's so short that you have to get in super close, but you also don't want something that's so big that you can't move through buildings or use in tight spaces if you happen to get surrounded. Um, so, but also you don't want something necessarily two-handed, just in case for that reason as well. So, I actually think I might have the perfect weapon in the room that I can show you. So hold on. And I've already mentioned it. I think it will have to be my little go in the two. I think it'll have to be this because you can sharpen these as much as you want. You can use two hands. You can take out two at once. They are blade length, about 2 feet long. So you got your reach so that you can keep them over arm's length, but you can also kind of get in close and move around and dance a little bit. So that I think is my twin swords.
Very nice. I dig that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put them down. Stay.
Okay. So what's something that you're learning about currently that you'd like to teach us?
Something I'm learning about that I'd like to teach you. Hmm. So I'm always learning about myself, honestly, and how to deal with myself and how that translates to working with other people because the nature of my job I also have to do a lot of self-reflection so I
Mhm.
can help co-regulate other people. So the way something I can teach you is try to learn what your triggers are so you can be better prepared when they come around. Like, and it's not necessarily something I can teach you as so much as I can guide you in the process of you learning yourself. Try to learn your triggers. Try to come up with a plan to work through those when they happen so you don't go off the edge when they come about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, so yeah, because you can't help anybody if you're not regulated and not yourself in a neutral state or a positive state. So I think that's what I could stand to guide somebody through is how do you um, how do you learn more about yourself so you can help somebody else? Because it also kind of works on a bigger stage too. Like you can't. What's the first thing they tell you when you get in an airplane and it starts going down? Put your mask on first before you help somebody else. Like
Mhm.
if you can't help yourself, then you can't help anybody else.
Mhm.
So I think yeah, that's my answer. I think learning more
Agreed.
about yourself.
Yeah, it's easy to be pleasant on good days, right?
Yeah.
Right. When triggers happen, that's when people like, and I don't, and I hate when people say like, oh, they finally showed their true self because I don't know if that's true because
Mhm.
I hear a lot of people say that, but I think people's triggers come out in that moment, but I don't necessarily that is them. It's a part of them, right? That they
Yeah.
haven't been able to find ways to regulate. So, for instance, so you mentioned that you could talk somebody through this about helping their triggers. So, if you were helping me real quick, so what would you tell me in order for me to help me find that out about myself?
Well, first I would ask you, and this is like I'm not even perfect at this. Like I still get mad at stupid things, and I
Mhm.
don't always realize it in the moment. And it takes some self reflection. Like I would first ask you, like, what is something that you consistently feel some type of way about? And then I would ask you, so like you get mad about this. Okay, so what part about when that happens is what actually makes you mad? So like, for example, like what's something that you get irritated with pretty consistently?
Let's see. What do I get irritated by? Um, I would say because this is interesting because I'm a very laid back, chill person for the
Yeah,
most part. I don't get phased by a lot, but there's always something, right? And
yep.
I would say that where I would say I wouldn't say that I get frustrated at this, but I always have this thing about feeling like if I'm listening to music, if there's lyrics that say that you're not enough or anything like that, or that's what gets me is it makes me like because there are definitely times in my life where I feel like I'm not doing enough.
Yeah. Okay, so if that's one of your triggers that gets you feeling some type of way, what is the root cause of why does that trigger you?
So it triggers me.
Because if you can figure out why it triggers you,
Yeah, yeah.
you can kind of work through of kind of lessening the symptoms of that.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because I've contemplated this a lot actually, which is kind of fun. So I'd say at the core, I think it has to do with tying my identity to what I do.
Yeah.
So because if I do something really, hey, hey. Sorry, I had the little one just walk in here and is showing me gummy bears.
Hey, I
Um,
learned with bears.
okay, so so okay, so what happens is I tie my worth to the things that I do. And I've
Hmm.
done that for a long time. And I used to get frustrated when I couldn't do something when I was a kid. Like I just remember like if I was doing something I know I could do and I failed at it, I would get so frustrated. And then, I learned and learned and learned and I got better at it, but I don't think it's been since the past few years where I started really analyzing that. And yeah, I think the thing about it is um, because I tie that to that, then that just means that my mood is affected by if I did a good job or if I did a bad job or if, whatever. So
So your mood is outcome related, as in like achievement based.
it is. And if you look at me on the Enneagram, I don't know if you've done the Enneagram.
I have not.
Uh, I am a three, which is an achiever. So that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what my thing has been for the past few years, my work has been to uh, find ways to not attach that, like to be okay with maybe sucking at stuff. So a lot of things too, like I'll do things just to do it. Like sure, I'll do it. I'll do the Highland Games. Let's do it. You know, and it's like,
But
and
you're really good
it's
at it secretly, and you're getting better every time because when we were practicing, you were throwing stones way out there with me consistently.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So that's the thing. So it's like, it's like I'm trying to put myself in positions more and realizing what one thing I've noticed why I know that I've improved in it is because I take feedback really well now, and that used to be something I couldn't take. Like if someone said like, "Hey, you didn't do a good job at this," or "We need to talk about this," it's like, oh, it's like a personal attack,
Yeah,
but it's not. And being able to step back now and them sharing like, actually, thank you for that, thank you for your input because that actually helps me like grow, learn, whatever. And
yeah,
that's one thing that I think about is I was like, I wish I would have known this earlier. But yeah, but to that point, I think that's the thing that comes to my mind anyways, as far as my trigger point.
yeah. Because like if you already mentioned like one of the ways that you're working through that, I was also to suggest if you didn't have something is
Uh-huh.
um, try doing things that you can't win at, or
Uh-huh.
there's no scoring, or there's no competition.
Yep.
Try doing something that there's no basis. So like you can't win, you don't have any achievement for it. Benign tasks, so just to kind of get used to like there's nothing that you can do about it. You're just going to do it to
Yeah.
work through those. And you taking coaching is a great example of getting better at something while also being competitive, which is as an athlete, I love competing so much. Um, but you shared, so I'll share something that triggers me, and I'm still working through all the time. My biggest one is feeling ignored. That's my
Mhm.
biggest trigger that I need to work through. Like I have feel instances of that every day where if I feel ignored, I'll start almost lashing out. Um, and that comes from my childhood. Like I talked about my stepdad, like I tried reaching out so many times to like, hey, let's go do this or have a game night with me or like you want to go do this and like, oh yeah, we'll do that, and then nothing ever happens. So like I grew up feeling ignored. So now as an adult, when I feel ignored, it really triggers me and I get upset about it, and I have to start reminding myself like, and I don't do a very good job about it. Like I said, I'm still working through it. Like if I feel ignored, I kind of turn into a jackass, and it's not always intentional, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it creates hiccups in relationships and with friends and partners and parents and coworkers. And like, if I feel ignored, I'm not going to be very nice about it until either I get a reason of from their perspective of why it comes across like I'm being ignored, or if I get an apology, like, or I just realize like, no, they're not ignoring me; they're just doing something else, or maybe they didn't hear me. But yeah, that's one of my triggers and something that I could work through.
Yeah. Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah,
I Yeah, I don't know if many people think about that. And I tell people about that all the time because I'm in the training and development world. So we're always trying to solve issues or come up with solutions, right?
yeah,
So when we do that stuff, a lot of it is like, like it's people interaction. There's a lot of people stuff, like how to give feedback, how to talk to people, how to coach. And not many people think about the root cause when it's like you're not going to solve any issues if you don't think about why the thing is happening in the first place.
yeah. And then when you finally figure out what your triggers are, if you can share what gets you like in those moods with the people that you work with,
Hmm.
and they're aware of it as well, it kind of makes things go a little bit smoother because if they know what triggers you, it's not that they're going to try to beat around the bush or like sugarcoat anything or like cater to you, but like maybe be a little bit more aware. Like if like, hey, I'm not ignoring you. I'll get back to you in a second. Like little messages like that help
Yeah.
me. Like, okay, I'm not being ignored. They're just doing something right now and they'll get back to me when they can. Like
Yeah.
rather than if I send you a message and I don't hear anything from you for 4 days, like and not knowing what's going on, like I'm like paranoid, anxiety attack, like what's going on. And I don't think I have really bad anxiety, but like when I feel ignored, I kind of feel like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that you said, it's funny that, so you mentioned anxiety. If you would have asked me 4 years ago anything about emotions, I knew absolutely nothing about emotions 4 years ago. Like it was bad. And it's funny
Yep.
because I didn't know because this is what you would have said. If someone said, like, so how are you feeling? I would have said, like, I feel good. Okay.
Hmm.
That would be my answer all the time. And I believed it. That's the thing. I wasn't lying. I believed it. I was like, yeah, I'm just not an emotional person. I don't feel emotions much, but I know that I'm happy, and I laugh and I'm sure I get sad and stuff. I'm like, I don't really get mad, but I mean, I know that's an emotion. I remember the first time going to counseling, and them asking me that question of like, okay, so tell me, so like, cause I was having trouble answering this thing. Like, well, what are you feeling right now? I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. They're like, well, what emotions do you know? And I was literally like, happy, mad, sad. And I was like, okay. And they're like, any more? Are there more? Yeah. So they're like, so they gave me the whole emotions wheel to kind of study and look through. I was like, good gosh. And the
Yeah.
funny thing is learning it and identifying it are two different things. So once I started just paying attention, I felt there was a huge change. And it's crazy because we don't get taught that stuff. And I feel like that should be like the stuff we learn so much in school that's pointless, but those are things I think we need to learn in school is like emotional regulation, like understand how emotions work, understand like when you feel it, what should you do about it? And
Yeah.
it's so fascinating and we don't. And I was a, 32-year-old man and had no idea anything about emotions. So it's like, of course I wasn't able to support other people emotionally. Like I could listen and I was always a good listener, but I didn't know what you were feeling. I couldn't even understand because I didn't know how to feel it.
Yeah. I can sympathize with you so much on that because I've always been able to listen to somebody and kind of give like logical feedback. But when it comes to
Mhm.
emotions, it wasn't until I started working with kids in the capacity that I do a little over a year and a half ago that I actually started like studying myself because like I had to learn more about myself so I could help these kids. Um, so yeah, like you're ahead of me at the same time, but like at the same time, I'm learning it before. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like it's not a competition, so I don't know why it's coming off like this. Like you learned about it 4 years ago, but
Mhm.
whereas like I'm learning about it here recently. Like we're in the same spot at the same time,
Mhm.
but like how would you have done it differently if you could have been my age right now? Because you're a little bit older than me. How much different would you be now? Do you think if you would have learned this skill at my age as opposed to learning it later on in your life?
Oh, yeah, I would say um, that's a tricky thing because I don't know if outcomes would have been any different. But I would say if I knew about it earlier, I'd say I would have been able to function in my maybe some of my previous relationship much better because
Yeah,
I would have been able to one identify how I'm feeling and be able to speak up and be able to share like, hey, this is what I'm feeling right now. Like, can we talk about this, or do you have space to hear, whatever? And I would also be able to understand where they're coming from more. And I just didn't have those tools, so I didn't know. And honestly, the thing that sucks is I didn't grow up like our family. Like my family's great, love my family, and we had our points where like they were great parents, but we weren't really an emotionally aware group of people. They weren't. My parents weren't raised in that type of environment. I wasn't raised in that type of environment, so we were always logical people, like always,
yeah,
never emotion people. So we had no idea. So and it took me getting divorced for me to actually look inwardly because I'm like, I'm at a low, like I don't know how to make it through. So I'm just going to start learning everything possibly that I can. So honestly, if that didn't happen, I can't say that I would be learning about it even still.
yeah. Tell me if this is like relevant to you, but up until I started working at this current job, I was the way I coped with my couple of emotions, either happy, sad, or angry,
Mhm.
is I either shut down, lashed out, or distanced myself from everybody. If I wasn't happy, I was just pushing people away or getting angry or just kind of going into a depressive state. And now I can kind of start talking through some of my stuff, and it's still hard. Like all that
Mhm.
stuff is never going to be easy, but it's easier than what it used to be because I was never a person that could talk about feelings because being a man, being the oldest of four kids, and we didn't that wasn't incorporated into daily life of hey, let's talk about this. How are you feeling? What can I do to help? That wasn't something that I got. My sister, yeah, she got plenty of that even before she had leukemia. But us, never, never. Just suck it up. Be a man. Be a boy. Like you can do this, and if you can't, figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So one thing that's interesting that I will say is somehow I feel like even not being aware of my emotions, I feel like somehow my body knew what to do to handle it. So I never lost it. I never had an angry outburst. And I also didn't feel like I suppressed a lot, even though some people might say I did. And I'm sure I did suppress at moments, yes. But I don't know. It's like I've always found outlets to get through stuff that were like healthy coping mechanisms. So I play music, and I don't know if I've told you that. So I play music, and I used to do that a lot of times. So like if I would maybe be feeling low, I just grab music, I just play, I just do whatever. And I think I found a lot of different outlets like to be able to go through and navigate those emotions, even songwriting and things like that, without even knowing that I was doing that.
yeah. What was your instrument?
Oh, I play everything really. So I started off playing guitar and singing first, and then I also play drums, bass, piano. And what I've noticed is as of late, like if I'm feeling like sad or down, piano is what I go to now. And it's probably the one I'm least good at, but I just love hopping on the piano and just finding some type of emotional thing just to go through. Cause and I was listening to some research and they talked about when you're feeling sad, actually, you should listen to sad music that'll help you get over it better. And it seems contradictory because some people say like, well, you should listen to happy music. And they're like, actually, no, because what you're doing is when you're listening to sad music, it's helping you be in touch with that feeling
Yeah,
rather than trying to mask it.
You're
Yeah,
staying in the moment and actually feeling your feelings instead of hiding them. Yeah, like
exactly. Exactly. Yep. Yep. So, and that's what I found out. So that's, I think, so I'm grateful that I picked up music and did music. So I think that helped me a lot through managing a lot of the stuff that I went through. Without even noticing it. And I did lots of sports too, and I did martial arts. I did lots of things. So there may be other outlets there too. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. So that's why I think if we can get out of our own way sometimes, I think our bodies, and I've read this somewhere too, like I think our bodies know how to heal themselves to a certain extent, as long as you can get out of your way, whether it be getting out of like this negative self or this negative mindset or getting away from those unhealthy coping mechanisms like alcohol or drugs or things like that. I really think that your body sometimes knows what to do, even if logically you don't.
yeah, and that goes into like a little bit of the psychology of the human mind and the human body and the needs. I think it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mhm.
As long like if you can get your basic needs met, like yeah, I think that you can start moving in the right direction of
Uh-huh.
self healing. But if you're just in a constant state of fight or flight, or you don't know when your next meal is coming, or you don't know when the abuse is going to stop, or
Yeah.
when the mental strain is going to cease, like you're never going to be able to heal and grow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you can get out of those situations, your body can definitely start responding in the right way.
Agreed. And I think that goes to another point of like, a lot of the stuff I've been reading about addiction mostly talks about actually shifting the environment is actually one of the biggest things. It's not even because it's like when you put people in good environments, they tend to forget about the addictions or the bad coping things that they had anyways, because they're in a place where they have connection, they feel cared about, they feel valued. So to that point, it's like, when you're in a state of survival, because I don't think there's many states of survival these days for the most part, but it can probably feel that way. Like if you're in an abusive relationship or you're, whatever it might be. So it's like removing yourself from that environment. And I will bet you some stuff will start turning around right away.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into like like kind of the same thought as the co-regulation. So there's also the kind of what happens like if you want to get rich, you hang out with wealthy people because whatever your friends are doing is what you're going to end up doing as well. Like if
Yep.
your friends are gamblers and crackheads, you're going to be a gambler and a crackhead.
Mhm.
So your environment is definitely a big contribute. Words are hard and I can't stop stuttering. Your environment is a great indicator of how you're going to turn out and what your mental state and your physical state is going to end up being.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a saying I always liked hearing too, is they used to say, like, you are the sum of your five closest people. Because it's like the five people you're closest to is basically how you're going to be. So it says, so pick your five people wisely because you're going to potentially be a sum of those five people. So to your point, if they're druggies, alcoholics, odds are you're probably going to be in that space. If they're wealthy people or they all have the same focus or goals as you, then odds are that those are going to be them. So it kind of makes you think about like your inner circle essentially. And do I really want to be like them? Because maybe you still want to hang out with them. I'm not saying remove it, but maybe it's like, I'm going to just spend a little less time with them, instead of like spend all day with them because odds are you're probably going to pick up some traits from that person.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I never thought about the sum of the five people. I just always knew that if you wanted to better yourself, you hang out with people that you want to be like.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the same idea. It's just a different way of saying it.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I dig it. Okay. Hey, that was neat. I like going down this, that path. That was fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So now another question I like to always ask is, what are you doing for fun?
So we've talked about it. I do the Highland Games. So I'm trying to up my amount of games I go to. And I've only done one this year, and then my next one is 16 days away, St. Louis. Or you're going to that one too, correct?
Yep. Me too. And I have my daughter that day, so she's going to be coming with.
Heck yeah.
So I'll have to figure that out. Do they allow like kids to kind of be hanging out?
Um, so they can hang out, just they can't be on the field.
Yep.
And at St. Louis, it's a pretty small field actually, unless they change the location a little bit.
Okay.
So we'll do 8 events. We won't do light hammer because light hammer takes up too much space. Um,
Okay.
but there's clan tents that line three sides of the field, and then there's viewing on the one other side. And then I'll be there. Chip will be there. If I'm there, Ellie's going to be there.
Okay, cool.
And I don't know if she's going to compete or not, but if she competes, then um, Ellie's great with kids. She also works at the same place I do and grew up taking care of kids. And then I don't know if Chip's going to bring his kids or not.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
I think it'll be fun because the thing is too is I want to keep including her in a lot of that stuff.
Hmm.
Because I think a lot of times we want to do things. We're like, well, let's see if we can find a sitter. But I think it's good. Like I've taken her to work sometimes, and I just think that that's good for her to see what her dad does in action. And I think it's kind of
How
fun.
old is she?
She's 8.
She's 8. Well, as I say, if she's, I think, because you got to witness a little bit of the younger, like youth classes in the Highland
Mhm.
Games. Like, if she was old enough for that, I would say, like, get her registered to compete if she was interested in it. But I don't know if she's quite old enough for it yet. I'm not sure what the cutoff or even if they'll have that at the St. Louis Games this year.
Yeah. Well, if she's up for it, I plan on having her compete if she wants to, at least for fun. Like, hey, just come on, let's see how you do.
Yeah.
Could be fun.
I think they're going to have a contest like that for the Sterling Classic, the one in Yukon, Oklahoma, that I'm going to go to at the end of May. So
Sweet.
I think they have like starting at 7 to 11. I think they have like a little kid class there. Um, but yeah, I'm doing the Highland Games. I do my wood carving stuff. I play a lot of video games. I'm currently playing. I do Fortnite. I do Call of Duty. I play a lot of Smite. Fun fact: I was the team captain of the esports Fortnite team in college for my senior year, my 5th year. I finally convinced our director of esports to add that as a team, and I ended up being the team captain. Got my jersey with my name and number and username on it and everything. It's hiding away in the closet right now. Um, what else do I do? Oh, I haven't played recently, but I'm also a nerd in the capacity of Yu-Gi-Oh! I play the old card game Yu-Gi-Oh! I got a
Mhm.
couple thousand cards and was competitive in that for a couple years, and I'm kind of on a hiatus right now of it. I read, as you can see, I've got a good chunk of my books back here. I haven't grown up yet, so I read a lot of like young adult fiction. There's a couple nonfiction or history inspired stories that I'll read, but my favorites are Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Percy Jackson. Um, which one's this one? Oh, this is the Aragon series, and then the Murtagh, the next book, and then these are my mythology books. So I have the Celtic one, I have the Norse, and then I think one of them's Greek. So I got all kinds of mythology books over here.
Sweet. Okay, so Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Fuck, that's a really good, really hard question.
Hmm.
Oh man, I want to say both, but that's not the point of the question.
You
Uh,
got to pick one or the other. You got to have your reason why.
man, that's so hard because I would love to be an elk running through the forest, slashing orcs with a sword and shooting them with a bow and living forever. However, I think living forever would kind of be the tortured reality, um, at least in my perspective. I'm not an elk though. Um, you know, I think I'm gonna have to say Harry Potter because I want something completely different, but I also want a sense of familiarism and something that is more close to the time that I'm in now, but also I want a little bit of magic. Comfort. That's what I would say. Comfort, because it's more close to what we've got now. If I was living back in the, let's say I say back as it's real, but like in the Lord of the Rings universe, like I don't some of the conditions of living. If you're not one of the members of royalty, I couldn't do it. Like I already said, I can't do the heat. I can't do that. Mm-mm. Yeah, I ain't going to the bathroom with a pine cone. That's not happening. So I think Harry Potter. I'd have to do the Harry Potter, and I would have to be a wizard. Like if I cannot be a wizard, there's no point of me being in the Harry Potter universe because it'd just be like normal. I'm already a Muggle. I don't want to be a Muggle in a magical universe.
Okay. Yeah, you took this way different than I was expecting, actually. I didn't think about putting myself in that universe. I was just thinking more of a series. So,
Oh,
but if that's how you want to go with it, I mean, I didn't specify. I just said Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter. So I mean, that's a good
that's
answer.
that's fair, man. Yeah, I think I'll probably still do. Oh man, if it's just like preference, I'm still gonna have to go Harry Potter because I'm more of a Harry Potter nerd. Like I've got the
Okay.
Elder One sitting up on my shelf right now, and I've got a baby Hedwig up there. I've got the Harry Potter Legos. Like I've been to a whole trip in the UK to go for Harry Potter. Like I'm a Gryffindor. I've got the poster hanging up in my bedroom. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go Harry Potter.
Okay. So I would go Lord of the Rings for sure. But you'd be excited because I did do last Halloween and I dressed up as a Death Eater.
Nice.
So I did that while my daughter was Hermione. So
Yeah,
gotta love that.
I dressed up as Harry Potter one year when I was a kid. That was the one and the only time I will ever use any form of hair dye because my hair is so blonde, and it was a temporary costume hair dye that was supposed to last like 3 hours. It lasted 3 weeks. It wouldn't come out. I was so mad because I have blonde hair. I don't need black hair, and I couldn't do it. Couldn't do
Mm,
it. Mm. That was like when I was a kid, so I had no beard, so I was running around with a baby face and black hair, and that didn't match.
got it.
Yeah,
Okay, here we go. So we've covered a ton today, right?
yeah.
So this next question is one of my favorites. So if you were to, from when you were born to now, if you were going to write a book or a chapter of a book, what would that story be called?
This is one that I had to write down because I had to think about it a little bit. Um, so my answer is what's going to happen next. That's going to be the title. What's going to happen next? Because it's an endless cycle of you work so hard and then you get everything where you want it to be and then something else happens. And then you got to work real hard and get it where you want it to be and then something else happens. So what's going to happen next? Like Murphy's Law. That's, yeah, whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Okay. Okay, so now we have two questions left. So, one, this is kind of anything else you want to share with the audience. This is also the time for you to, if you wanted to share your socials or any businesses you're doing, now's kind of like your time, your little 15 minutes of fame, you could say.
Yeah. So like I said, I do like small craft work. So like I make rings, necklaces, earrings. Working on some combs. If you want, like, I'm not like I make knife handles. I rehandle knives. I burn. I do like wood burning. I'm starting to do a little bit more like metal, like inlays in some of my wood projects. Um, so yeah, that's my little side business. I'm trying to get started up. I've only had one sale so far. I'm working on another project that I'm going to sell one of my buddies that he commissioned. He wants a beard comb, so I'm making a beard comb for him, and I'm going to put some designs on it and then give it to him. I made myself a comb as a proof of concept, and it's real big, and I like it. So like my socials, I think it's just my name on everything. So, like Lane Jellison, like I sell a lot of like, or not sell a lot of stuff, but like I started it up like advertising on Facebook. So it's just my first and last name on Facebook, and then my Instagram. I've got everything. My name is on there is Lane underscore Jellison. Like I've got a TikTok too that I post a lot of my Highland Games stuff on, and I also do some of my every now and then I'll post some of my builds on there. And TikTok is at Lane Jellyman because my nickname in college was Jelly because it's a play on my last name.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, Lane Jellyman on TikTok. Uh, so yeah, like if anybody wants anything that's like small to medium sized, or wants to give me a challenge and an idea for stuff, I'm always open to trying out new things. I think I kind of, after this project for the comb, I think I want to start. I'm also working on a brooch type thing. I don't know if I want to make it a kilt pin or if I want to make it for somebody like to pin up your hair. Making a sword and shield that's like this big to the sword will go inside the shield, either pin up somebody's hair or I'll end up attaching it to like as a kilt pin. Um,
Nice.
yeah. So I think after these two projects, I want to make another shield because I made a shield a long time ago out of some two by fours, and it's real heavy, it's real clunky, and it's not very comfortable. And knowing what I know now and having some better tools, I think I want to try to make another one that's a little bit more lightweight and more comfortable that I can wear around when I go to like my festivals and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I should get you in contact with one of my buddies. So I got a buddy who does he does acrylic pouring, he does wood burning, he does just lots of this random arts and crafts, and he sells things, but we've been trying to talk him into doing like going to some type of con of some type, right? Like Comic Con or whatever, just to like have a booth to sell stuff. So, dude, it'd be cool if you wanted to do that, if they were, looking for more artistry stuff to fill up a booth, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, I also forgot to mention I started doing some chainmail stuff too. So like, as a proof of concept, I made a 10-inch by 4 foot long uh, chainmail, just swatch, and I think I'm going to. That's another project. I keep giving myself projects and I don't ever start on them until I finally just snap and start on them. But
Mhm.
I think I'm going to make my girlfriend a either a chainmail skirt or top um, for our festivals that we go to. Um, but yeah, I can do that. I'm also looking into starting to make like necklace chains. I just have to order the materials for that and start playing with it and see if I can get it the way I like it. Um, so yeah, I'm all the time trying to challenge myself and make new things. See what I can get away with and what I can't get away with for materials I have because everything I have is handmade. I don't. The most I have for in the way of power tools is I have a Dremel and I have a drill. That's it. Everything else is hand carved um, and put together just by my large nasty hands. So, yeah.
Okay, sweet. Okay, now it's one of my favorite parts of the show here. So what we're gonna do is we have a question that the last gave. What you're going to do is you're going to get to answer that question, not knowing what it is, because I did not tell you. And then you get to create a question for the next guest.
Yeah,
Okay. So are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. So this question is, what would be your dream job?
For the longest time, I wanted to be, and I think this is still pretty accurate for me, a dream job. If I could make a perfect living off of being a coach, like a track coach for throws specifically, that's what I would want to do. Um, and like, I mean, it touches on like one of the reasons, like my coaches were the biggest one of the biggest influences in my life that changed it, and that's kind of the reason. One of the reasons I want to be a coach is so I can help people both be better versions of themselves, but also be better athletes. And yeah, I think it would be a coach, maybe at a college somewhere. I mean, I was a high school coach for 2 years, and I'm taking a year off. But if I could be a coach and survive on just doing that, that's what I would do.
Cool. I dig that.
Yeah.
Okay. So now what question do you want to leave the next guest?
Man, that's no, that's one that I forgot to think about. So give me a second. Oh, this is a question that I've asked before. Um, so we do check-in questions for, we have morning meetings at my job. So like I always have to think of new questions to ask people to get them engaged and wake them up in the morning. So the question that I would ask is, if money wasn't an issue and you could go anywhere you wanted to, where would you build your house? So where would you live? Where would you build your house if you could go anywhere and money and terrain wasn't a restriction? Me personally, I would build my house on one of the mountains next to Loch Ness in Scotland because it's beautiful and it's chilly and it's quiet. It's fresh. It smells so nice over there because there's not all the crap in the atmosphere over there.
Would you be trying to find that Loch Ness monster?
You know, if whenever you look at the pictures, you'll see I already found Nessie and I punched her in the face.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. hmm
Explain.
So when I was we took a boat ride on Loch Ness to get to one of the castles. I forget what the name of the castle was. I want to say, I think I'm probably going to get this wrong, but maybe Urquhart Castle over off of Loch Ness. I might be wrong. I might be right. I'd have to go back and look at what it was. Um, but there is a statue of Nessie on the side of the bank next to where you get on the boat. And I took a picture, like, Nessie looming over the top of me. I took a picture of me, like, swinging on Nessie. Um, so I thought, yeah, I already found Nessie and I punched her in the head. So she
Nice.
looked like she was trying to attack me, so I fought back.
Sweet. Okay, perfect. So I'm not going to answer this question yet, but I believe you're the 40th episode. So what I do is I answer all the guest questions every time there's 10 episodes. So you make the cutoff. So when I do my next special episode where I answer questions, that'll be the last one that I answer. So
Okay.
cool.
Heck yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, this has been awesome, Lane, kind of having you on here. And, you got to get I'm sure got to get the jitters out on the Highland Games episode. So I'm sure you felt real good and relaxed on this one.
Yeah. Like I was actually one of the things that I had a meeting with one of my supervisors because I report to our director of operations and then I also report to our vice president of the PRTF. So I have check-ins with them every other week. Like one week I'll have one week I'll have the other one. And our VP, I was talking to him about it. He's like, I thought that's going to be a little nerve-wracking talking on camera and doing interviews like that. And I was like, not so much because like where I work, we have cameras everywhere. Like I'm always on camera. Everything I say is recorded 24/7 if I'm on campus. So I like being on camera. I don't think I'm too worried about, but it's sounding dumb on camera is what I'm worried about because I'm on camera all the time. I just don't always look dumb because at work I know what I'm doing for the most part. Talking about my life and personal stuff and like being asked questions. That's the tricky part.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's fair. Well, it's been a great episode. It was nice learning about you, and I thought you seemed very comfortable.
I appreciate that. I tried. Like I'm a procrastinator, and I told you that I was going to work all week on getting answers for your questions. And even though I looked at them several times throughout the week, I never wrote them down until probably about 30 minutes before we went live, and I only wrote down three of the questions. But
Nice.
I thought those were the three that was going to take me more thought. So
All right.
I did. I procrastinated. If it wasn't for the last minute, nothing would get done.
Yeah. No. Well, it worked. It was great.
I appreciate
Cool.
it.
Awesome. Well, Lane, it was nice having you on. And
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll connect again. I know we're gonna keep the audience updated on sometimes the Highland game stuff. And I know we're going to have, another Highland Games competitor in a future episode. So she will probably join us for our Highland Game stuff. So I'm excited about that. So
Yeah, we'll
yeah,
have to get another practice time scheduled here before too long. I wish we could have
exactly.
practiced today or tomorrow, but Chip's not in town for too long.
Yeah.
Um, so hopefully, I finally got my car legal. By the way, I know we talked
Oh,
about
good.
that last week, so I finally today got everything fixed, so I don't have to wash my back when I'm driving down the street. My tags are no longer expired. So now that I don't have to worry about that, hopefully I can buy some more of my implements so we can have practice utensils.
There we go. I dig it. And I still need to look. I haven't looked for a heavy weight yet, but I'm gonna look.
I'll send you some links on Facebook.
Okay, sweet. Okay, cool. Well, this isn't goodbye. This is see you later. So I'm sure I'll see you soon. Okay.
Yes, sir.